What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for your NFL Week 16 review, recap, and reaction, giving you my rants across the NFL for this week. We have a loaded show here this week with a lot to discuss when it comes to this week in the NFL and looking forward to the NFL playoffs in both the AFC and the NFC. Of course, we have some injury news as well to react to, and some absolutely amazing performances from some quarterbacks and some players this week in the NFL. This is the show where, like it or not, I give you my straight bottom line take. And that's why this is called the bottom line, because I give you the bottom line. I don't mess around, okay? I tell you the honest truth. You can agree with me. You can disagree with me, but this is my honest truth, okay? And that's what we do here on this show every week, every Monday night after Monday Night Football, the weekly review. If you are new, please do consider subscribing to the channel for weekly NFL reviews and rants just like this. And if you are a regular, if you are a BLVer, then you know what to do. You know what's coming next. Make sure that you do Gronk, spike that like button, and don't forget to Gronk spike the notification bell if you are subscribed and don't have notifications on. I don't even know the point, because if you're subscribed but you don't get all the notifications, you're gonna miss a bunch of stuff. So you gotta get the notifications. Hit the bell, go to the all, check the all. Make sure it's on all, okay? Nothing else. All, check it. Also, a couple other things before we begin. Make sure to follow the channel at TheBottomLineView on Instagram and myself on Twitter at Mitch Milani. Today, I tweeted about the Batman trailer, which I thought was amazing. If you haven't seen it already, go check it out. But also on Instagram, you can get the one and only Ultra 10 and much more. So make sure that you follow us on both social media platforms. As we always do every week, guys, we've got to give a shout out. We've got to give a shout out to the GOATs out there. The GOATs. And who I'm talking about are the BLV patrons, all the people that support me monthly on Patreon. Shout out to you. You know who you are. I appreciate all of you. If you do become a patron, you will be included in this shout out. I appreciate every single one of you who support me, whether that's to do with the gambling content, whether that's to do with the BLV vs. Consensus podcast, or anything, any other reason, or you just support me to support me. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I'll continue to work hard to bring you great content. At least, I hope it's great. Maybe I'm just a hack talking in front of a microphone, but I hope it's great. I hope you enjoy it. On that note, all right, let's take a look at these commenters. We've got Isaac in the chat, who's really excited. Mr. Murder in the chat, who's really excited. Big Data! I always want to say data, but I gotta say data, because he told me to. Giant Ocean! Ola, how you doing? Nathan, what's up, bro? Thank you guys for joining me here live, and if you are not live, let me know your thoughts on all of the different conversations that I have here in the comments section below. And let's waste no more time, and let's get rolling with Monday Night Football. So tonight we had arguably the most boring Monday Night Football game of the 2021 NFL season. There have been some bad Monday Night Football games, but I don't think there's been any game that has been more predictable, but yet at the same time boring than this Dolphins-Saints game. And we knew that Ian Book was going to come in here and lay an absolute egg, because Ian Book is a disaster, okay? And I felt bad for the guy, because we know he's not exactly a super talented quarterback. He's a fourth string quarterback. A fourth string Guys, he's not even a third string. Fourth string. Fourth! And he's playing one of the most aggressive coordinators and defenses in the NFL. On top of that, he has neither of his tackles. His wide receivers are trash. His tight end is garbage. He only has Alvin Kamara. So that being said, we knew the Saints were going to get punished in this game, especially coming off their Super Bowl victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Congratulations to the Saints on their 3 Super Bowl championships. So the Saints in this game are punished. We saw this coming. But the story was about, can the Dolphins take care of business? That was the story. That's what we were looking forward to seeing. And that's exactly what happened. So give a hand to the Dolphins, because this game was all about the Dolphins. Okay, because the Saints, we knew they were going to lose. And I know they beat the Bucs last week. They seemingly always beat the Bucs. But we know they're probably not going to make the playoffs. The Dolphins, on the other hand, have some weird chance to make the 2021 NFL playoffs. Or 2022 NFL playoffs. I guess it would be 2022. Regardless of that, let's not get caught up in these years, okay? The whole 2020 to 2022 is the same year, as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, so the Dolphins defense, what did they do in this game? They blitzed all the time, like we said. They got after Ian Book. They caused mistakes. Second pass of his NFL career, pick 6. And the Dolphins, I thought Tua played pretty well, right? He didn't make many mistakes. He didn't turn the ball over and give the Saints opportunities to win this game, because that was really the only way they were going to win this game. And the Dolphins did a good job of maintaining balance. Not necessarily protecting Tua all that much, but I mean, the offense for Miami didn't really have to do a ton. Let's be honest. But what they did best was they didn't turn the ball over. I think the star of this game, if you watch this game and you're like, that is a star, it's Jaylen Waddle. And I haven't spoke much about Jaylen Waddle this season, but he has been arguably, I know Jamar Chase has been amazing, but Jaylen Waddle has been stride for stride with Jamar Chase for the best rookie receiver this year. And Jaylen Waddle could end up being the better one when it's all said and done. This guy is explosive. This guy is a great crisp route runner from the slot. He's great with the ball in his hands on yak plays. He can stretch the field due to his speed. And this Miami offense, when he's in there, is taken to the next level, because he is the guy that this offense is driven through. He is the playmaker of this offense. He is the number one target of Tua. And when we talk about Tua, he's somebody that I'm never going to think that Tua is going to be an upper echelon quarterback, and I don't ever think Tua is going to be an upper echelon quarterback. But I would be lying if I didn't say that Tua has performed better, especially over the past 7 games, than I thought he would. And you know me as somebody that will say when I'm wrong. And I don't think I'm necessarily wrong in terms of what I think Tua is or what I thought Tua is. But I think what Tua has been for the Dolphins is a serviceable starting quarterback who won't hurt you. He won't lose you a game. And he makes just enough throws to win you games. And that's what I've seen from Tua during this stretch. There's things that are certainly flaws in his game. I think his pocket presence and his ability under pressure is his biggest flaw. And it certainly needs some, work. And obviously his arm strength isn't ideal. But when you allow him to play through this offense with a lot of RPOs, with a lot of middle of the field passing concepts, he is accurate, he puts the ball in the money, and he does have a nice little arc on his deep ball every once in a while where he can hit you deep and make a few throws here and there. And I think Tua, I got to give him credit, because I've been killing this kid, and I haven't had many opportunities to just talk about the Dolphins, to be honest with you, because they've kind of not been on the radar for quite some time until now. But I think I have to say that Tua has been better than I expected. So I do want to give him credit, because I understand that a lot of Dolphins fans become frustrated with me when I don't give him credit when he deserves it. So there you go. I gave him the credit. Is he my favorite quarterback? Obviously not, but he is a guy that deserves some credit for how this team has performed. You look at this team, 7 straight losses and now 7 straight wins. That is insane. That is the first time that's happened in NFL history. NFL history. That's never happened. It happened tonight. Can Miami make the playoffs? Personally, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because I don't think they're going to beat the Titans next week. And ultimately, they play the Titans and they play the Patriots. And I don't think they're better than either of those teams. I look at the Titans as a difficult matchup for the Dolphins next week. I think Miami has proven that in Miami, they can beat the Patriots regardless of who's playing on either team. So I won't necessarily rule them out of winning that game. I think the more challenging game is the Titans. But when you look at this schedule, I just don't think they've faced the caliber of the Titans or the Patriots really this entire run of their win streak. And I think that's a big reason they're now in this discussion because they've beaten teams, like the Giants and the Jets and the Saints with Ian Book and all these teams that are very beatable. And I think that has a lot to do with it. But I think you've got to give credit to Brian Flores. You've got to give credit to Tua. You've got to give credit to this defense and the turnaround that they've had. You've got to give credit to Jaylen Waddle. And I think this is a team in Miami that I don't look at as a good team this year. I don't see as a playoff team at the end of the day. But this win streak at this time is going to be a positive spin on what looked like a disastrous season. A lot of people before the season were saying the Dolphins are done. They're going in a downward spiral towards just long-term terrible play from this franchise. They were considering, is Brian Flores even the answer? Tua's not the guy. We need a new quarterback. The Deshaun Watson situation has died down since, right? And I really feel like now Miami and their fans can look at this next season coming up in 2022, considering, okay, let's say they don't make the playoffs, as one with more promise than maybe they would have 5-6 weeks ago. So I think there's that to hang your hat on for Miami, and I think that's a big, big thing. So congratulations to the Dolphins for continuing to win and putting together an impressive streak. Again, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I do think that they're a pain in the butt for a lot of these teams, including Tennessee and New England, who are looking to get wins to secure their playoff spots and their matchups in the playoffs. So this game overall, like I said, was about the Dolphins taking care of business. The Saints. So transferring this conversation to the Saints, and I do have a place that I want to go with this, but overall, I think that the New Orleans Saints are a team that I look at a lot like, and I've said this many times, as the Patriots a year ago, where they're just undermanned. They've had to deal with a lot of unfortunate circumstances. They've basically had a stretch where they weren't able to play at home. They've had numerous important players hurt. They've had numerous quarterbacks hurt. They've had a lot of bad stuff happen to this team. And I just want to say that I think the two best coaches in the NFL are Bill Belichick and Sean Payton. At the end of this season, no matter what happens in the playoffs, no matter what goes on, my head coaching rankings will be Bill Belichick and Sean Payton. I don't care that the Saints don't make the playoffs. Sean Payton, just his ability to get this team to 7 wins, has been one of the most impressive coaching jobs I have seen in recent memory. This team is not good. This team has talent, don't get me wrong, but it's in all the wrong places. I mean, they don't have receivers. They don't have a tight end. Their offensive line's hurt. They don't have a quarterback. They've got, limited players here and there on defense, but it hasn't really mattered that much. This team has still managed to be around 500. Right? I always say Sean Payton's the best offensive coach besides Bill Walsh in NFL history. And I think somewhat that's been proven this year for what he's been able to do with so many different quarterbacks, so many different receivers, and the cast that he's had. Now, transferring this conversation to what I want to get to. If you're watching this out there, Russell Wilson, you need to go to New Orleans. I don't care what it takes. I don't care if you've got to demolish your relationship with the Seahawks fandom, the 12s, That fan base that wears the most disgusting jersey in the NFL. It's literally just a 12. They literally celebrate being a fan base in Seattle. It is gross. But besides that point, if you've got to, I don't care, divorce Sierra, whatever it is, you've got to go to New Orleans. And this is a guy that is a Brady fan. This is a Bucks fan. This is a guy that doesn't want to see the Saints be good because that means the Saints are probably going to take the division back because the Bucks can't seem to beat their asses. Okay? But with Sean Payton, okay, with this defense, maybe Michael Thomas healthy, Alvin Kamara, and a potential draft pick offensively, this would be not just a playoff team, but a Super Bowl type of team. This would be in the top 3 conversation in the NFC. If you get Sean Payton with Russell Wilson, this is prime Drew Brees vibes with the Saints. They've got a good foundation on defense. Russell's a playmaker. You've got a very good offensive line, one that Russ has never really had, right? And I know Russell Wilson hasn't been the same player in this recent stretch, but you throw Russell Wilson with this scheme, a better scheme than he's ever had, a better offensive line than he's ever had, Kamara, who would be the second best running back he's ever had, this would be a very, very tough team to stop. Because on top of having a very good scheme, you would have a very dynamic playmaker that, without the scheme, makes a lot of plays by himself. So to me, the perfect landing spot for Russell Wilson, because if you watch this Bears-Seahawks game, there's no reason for you to believe that Russell Wilson will be back in Seattle. Guys, Seattle is an absolute shit show. Shit show. They've got no offensive line. The run game stinks most of the time. The wide receivers are in a scheme that they only run straight. The scheme is dreadful. It's the worst offense in the NFL, scheme-wise, period. Not even close. Not even close. They've got no short passing game. They've got no intermediate passing game. It's all deep passing game. It's all run game. It's all deep passing game. Defensively, they stink. Stink. The coach is probably going to get fired. He's behind the times. He's looking like Matt Nagy out there. I think that the Seahawks are done with Pete Carroll, done with Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson should be a Saint this time next year. If it's not the Saints, I would pick the Steelers if I was Russell Wilson. But I don't really know if that's going to work for the whole power couple scene. I think New Orleans works better. The Giants, I'm not sure anybody wants to play there, to be honest with you. I think Russ would be dummy to do that, so we'll see. But, yeah, I want to throw that out there because I think New Orleans is that team this year that I clearly identify as the NFL team that wasn't very good this year, but should be really good next year. That is how I see them. All right. If you guys are just joining, don't forget to Gronk spike that like button and subscribe to the channel for more BLV. What's going on, Marco? How you doing, Becca? Nice to see you. It's been a long time. Heat Pete, how you doing? Jeremy, what's up, bro? Jeremy's always in here. GSP, there can't say anything to the offs. Leo, what's up? What's up? The coach is in here. All right. All right, guys. Let's get to the next topic, which we know is the greatest / worst top 10 to ever exist. It is called the Ultra 10. Ultra's 10 best teams in the NFL this week. Right after Monday Night Football, Ultra's top 10. And Ultra joined at the exact right moment. All right. Let's take a look at this disastrous top 10 that Ultra has put together. By the way, if anybody would care to know, Ultra and Lenny are putting together their own podcast, which is rather going to be incredible or the worst thing you've ever heard. So either way, it's going to be really, really good to listen to because it's going to be so good it's bad or so bad it's good. So either way, let's take a look at this Ultra 10. Okay. The Ultra 10. At number 10, we've got the Arizona Cardinals. I think that's fine. Honestly, the Cardinals aren't really playing like a top 10 team right now, but based on their early season results, on top of a lot of teams just generally sucking this year, I feel like Cardinals just inside the top 10 is about where you would place them. At number 10 or at number 11, 12 range, I don't think they're any higher than 10. I think they're clearly a 10 or 11 type of team. At number 9, he's got the Pats. I'm definitely moving Patriots down on my power rankings, just for all you haters to know. We'll talk about that in a second. They're definitely moving down in my power rankings outside of the top 5, closer to still in the top 10. But I think after 2 losses in a row, there's certainly reason to be a little bit concerned and to change expectations somewhat. So I think number 9 is fair. I might have them a tad bit higher, but we'll discuss that when my power rankings come out, which will come out tomorrow. At number 8, the Titans. I think that's okay. I think Tennessee and New England are about the same. I think you could flip them easily. And I think the Patriots have played better as of late. Although Tennessee beat the Niners, I wasn't super impressed by the win. You know, A.J. Brown was amazing, there's no doubt, but Tannehill was still kind of not great, and the defense is good. I'm not sure it's spectacular. They did kind of win because Jimmy Garoppolo played like absolute dog poop, and I'm pretty sure Becca would tell you that, but regardless, I think that's okay. At number 7, the Bills, I'm glad that he put a little bit of a respect on the Bills' name because the Bills, you know, they've had their bad moments, but I think a lot of the times we've kind of overreacted to the Bills in terms of the bad things because we've expected such greatness from Buffalo that I feel like, okay, if this was the Bills last year, right, I think we would look at them a lot differently than we do right now. I think there's still a lot of questions with the Bills, and they still split with New England. But I think when you look at the Bills, and if Josh Allen plays as well as he did on Sunday, they could beat any team in the NFL. And that's just the simple fact of the matter because there are not a lot of dominant teams in the NFL. Their defense is one of the top 10 in the NFL. They've got a solid receiving core. As we saw, their depth was on display versus New England. Isaiah McKenzie was unbelievable. We're going to talk about that. And then they've got good enough coaching too. So like, Buffalo is one of those interesting teams. I could see them going all the way to the Super Bowl. I could also see them losing the first game of the playoffs. They are a very difficult team to judge, and that's why they've been so up and down. They still lead the NFL in point differential, which speaks to when they're on, they are very good. At number 6, the Indianapolis Colts. I think this is a good place for them. You could even argue they are number 5. I think the top 4 is pretty good and pretty consistent across the board. I think number 5 could be debated. The Colts are playing just about as good as anybody right now. Even without a lot of players, they still played very well versus Arizona and dominated the Cardinals. So I think that's very fair. Jonathan Taylor is a beast. Stud. Best running back in football. It's not even close right now. And their defense turns the ball over, makes plays, stops the run. And Frank Reich's still the most underrated coach in the NFL. At number 5, the LA Rams. The Rams are a really interesting team. They are kind of like the NFC's version of Buffalo to me. Like, I could see them going all the way. I could also see them losing the first game they play in the playoffs. They have a little bit of inconsistency to them. They also have a defense that I think might be a tad overrated, but I thought came to play versus Minnesota. Offensively, they've found a little bit of a rhythm in the run game, which bodes well for their playoff run. Sony Michel's playing really well. At number 4, the Dallas Cowboys. They got back on track versus Washington. We're going to talk about Dallas in depth later on. Dallas is a team that I think a lot of people are starting to build some buzz around because they watched them whoop one of their rivals' asses, quite frankly, on Sunday Night Football. So we'll talk about Dallas. Number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Think that's fair. They have a lot of injuries right now, but despite that, they still dominated the Panthers. Defense is actually low-key, played extremely well over the last 3 to 4 games, including a Bills game that I think when you look at now looks more impressive than it did then. At number 2, the Packers. I think even though they have the best record in the NFL, there are a lot of questions about the Packers. We're going to talk about that later on, but they do have arguably the MVP, the best receiver in the league, maybe. It's I think a lot of people would say that. And then defensively, they've regressed, which I think is the concern, but offensively, they're getting better and better. And number 1, the Chiefs. The Chiefs, I think, are not as good or explosive as some of these other offenses, but I think their defense is playing really good football and really consistent football, and they had another dominant win. So I think it's fair to have them at number 1. I'm not necessarily sure if I will. I haven't necessarily decided yet, but we'll talk about the Chiefs again a little bit later here tonight. So thanks, Ultra, again, for the Ultra 10. You can check that out on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram at TheBottomLineView. Okay. All right, so let's start off with Saturday, I should say. Saturday Christmas football. So we had Saturday Christmas football, which I really enjoyed. Just the ability to watch the game in the background while I'm eating Christmas dinner and, chatting it up with the family and stuff. And also feeling extremely bloated while in the process. And feeling like I want to fall asleep because turkey coma. So we had Colts and Cardinals on this Saturday night. And this was a game that I fully expected the Colts to win. And it almost went too much in the direction that I thought it would. Like, it was almost too obvious. Like, a lot of times, I feel this way about NFL games. And sports in general. I don't think the best games in the NFL are the games that you can clearly predict. I think usually my favorite games are games where maybe the team you thought would win wins, but at the end of the day, the game result is not what you thought it would be. The way the game happened, what happened in the game is not what you thought would happen. This game is exactly what I thought would happen, and that's why I don't think it was a very fun game, because it was just so, from my perspective at least, so predictable. And despite the Colts having all of these losses with COVID, all their offensive linemen, they had like 6 offensive linemen out. This is a massive concern to the Cardinals, guys. Massive concern. So I have 2 takeaways from this game. 1, the Colts are the dark horse in the AFC. Like, they are the team that nobody wants to play in the AFC. Not the Chiefs, not the Bills, not the Titans, not the Patriots, not any of these teams, the Bengals, etc. None of these teams want to play the Colts, and I feel like it's because they match up in at least a decent fashion with every single AFC team. If the Colts go to the Chiefs in the second round, the divisional round, and beat the Chiefs, I would not be surprised whatsoever. If the Colts went to the AFC Championship, went to, I don't know, let's say Buffalo, and beat the Bills, would you be surprised? No, not at all. The Colts have put together a streak of very impressive play. Their only loss as of late was to Tom Brady. So, that's pretty good, if you ask me. Their offense is for the most part, really well balanced. I think their weakness is Carson Wentz and their passing game in general. The Colts, what's going to dictate the Colts' success in the playoffs is if they get a lead or not. If the Colts are not able to get a lead and they have to pass, and I understand they have good pass protection, and that's a huge reason. That's a huge reason a lot of teams struggle in those scenarios, is when you can't pass block and you're always dropping back without the threat of the run or play action. a lot of teams can just tee off on you and beat you. There's certain teams in the league like that I am concerned about. Like, let's just look at the AFC South rival, the Titans. If the Titans fall behind in a game, it's hard for them to come back because their pass blocking is so poor. Even, Tannehill hasn't been great or whatever, but they've got enough in terms of their weaponry and their quarterback. It's more so that their offensive line gives up so many sacks and so many pressures. The Colts have the protection. They have a quarterback who just makes too many questionable mistakes. To beat the Colts, you have to be able to force Wentz to pass. You have to be able to put him into uncomfortable positions. A lot like New England did. It's just that the Colts had the lead the whole game in that game 2 weeks ago. So it really never showed its ugly head, so to speak. But to beat the Colts, you have to force Wentz to be put in those situations as many times as possible because he is their weakness. There's teams where it's the opposite, right? Like for the Bucs, you want Tom Brady throwing as many times as possible. You want Aaron Rodgers throwing as many times as possible. You want Joe Burrow to throw as many times as possible because that's probably the way they're going to beat most teams in the league. There are exceptions, but most teams in the league. The Colts are a team that they want to run the ball. They want to protect Wentz through easy completions, play action, the ability to run screens, and all this sort of stuff. And that's where Frank Reich is really special. RPOs. Defensively, the Colts are really good at stopping the run. The Colts are pretty athletic, and they're good, sound in zone coverage. Are they extraordinary defense? No, I think they certainly can be passed on because they play so much zone that I think good quarterbacks can take advantage of that. But they're a team that I look at and match up a lot with a lot of the best teams in the AFC. The Cardinals, on the other hand, the other takeaway is that the Cardinals are a shoo-in. I'm talking, this is a guarantee from my perspective. It doesn't matter if the Cardinals play the Rams. It doesn't matter if the Cardinals play the Cowboys. It doesn't matter if the Cardinals play Tampa. Whoever they play in the first round, they will lose. I don't care who they play. Tampa, Dallas, Rams. Give me that team to beat Arizona right now. I don't care if they have D-Hop back. This team is not ready for the playoffs. This team is going... I could argue they might get slaughtered in the first round. This team does not look good. They lost to the Lions. They lost to an undermanned Colts team. They lost to the Rams. They are on a huge slide right now. I don't think this is an overreaction whatsoever. The Cardinals, quite frankly, have been figured out. And I'm not saying that you would rather play the Cardinals than let's say the Eagles. Like, I think you'd probably still rather play the Eagles just because of Kyler Murray. But this team looks bad. This team does not look playoff ready. They have a weakness versus the run without J.J. Watt. They're too light up front. Their cornerback play is a disaster. You just single up on the outside, you get the matchups, you attack those matchups. Wentz was able to do that. If Wentz can do that, do you think Dak can do that? Do you think Stafford can do that? Do you think Brady can do that? Yes, they can do that. Don't worry about it. And then, it's just not going to be good for the Cardinals come playoff time. I don't see them going anywhere. And I've said this for most of the year, but I think it is completely verified right now. That you could pretty much, if you're doing your bracket for the playoffs, cross the Cardinals off right now. They're not going anywhere. They're not making it out of the first round. This game confirmed to me that they are a one-and-done team. Period. One and done. Move on to the next round. And this is a subject that I'm going to talk about later on when it comes to the AFC playoffs versus the NFC playoffs. That's going to be the main event. And I'm going to talk about the differences and how I see it kind of shaking out. But that is my takeaway from this game. A beat-up Colts team beat the Cardinals. It said good things about the Colts and bad things about the Cardinals. Cardinals aren't ready. Colts, on the other hand, are a dark horse not to be messed with. Okay. The next topic is my boy Aaron Rodgers. I think this is a very interesting stat that I came across on the Twitter. So we have the MVP conversation has been Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, and a little bit of Jonathan Taylor. And this is not an argument for Tom Brady. I'm not going with that. This is a larger topic. The Packers are a good team. I don't think they're as good as people think they are. I talked about this last week, and we saw it again on Christmas, that they almost lost and quite frankly should have lost to the Browns. And we'll talk about the reason they didn't lose to the Browns in a second here. This stat is amazing. I don't think Matt LaFleur gets enough credit for the success of Aaron Rodgers over the past 2 to 3 seasons. Because we've clearly seen Aaron Rodgers up his game to MVP level. The highest percentage of wide open throws according to Sports Info Solutions. He leads the NFL by over 12% more than number 2, which is Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay, who is also, thought about as some sort of genius, right? Matt LaFleur has Aaron Rodgers throwing 27.5% of his throws wide open receivers. Now, I think a lot of that stems with the amount of RPOs and the amount of play action, the amount of screens, and the amount of swing passes that Aaron Rodgers throws, and I don't know how that factors into this stat, but I think that's a pretty crazy list. Ben Roethlisberger is a very puzzling one. I think that just speaks to the receiver talent on the team. But Mahomes, Garoppolo, Stafford, and Rodgers all make a lot of sense because their offensive coaches are all very good. But the thing about Rodgers is he's so much higher there. And I wonder, that's not really being taken into account at all with this Aaron Rodgers MVP thing. And I think more people should be talking about Matt LaFleur than are talking about Matt LaFleur. That's all I want to say. That's all I want to say with this stat. I think Matt LaFleur deserves to be in a higher regard in terms of offensive play calling and especially sequencing the red zone. I think I've said this for at least a year. I think the best red zone coach offensively is Matt LaFleur. I have never seen a team score more easy passing touchdowns than the Packers have over the past 2 years. And obviously some of that has to do with Aaron Rodgers and some of that has to do with Devontae Adams. But the fact that this guy only has one receiver that is above average and he's the best in the NFL, but it's Devontae Adams, okay? And he finds so many different ways to get him open is pretty miraculous to me because they really only have one above average option. They don't have a tight end. Tonyan's hurt. Their receivers, other than Adams, are completely mediocre. Completely mediocre. And that's why Rodgers is getting a lot of buzz for MVP. But I don't think enough people are saying Rodgers has been really, really good. But Matt LaFleur is also the reason as well that this offense is as good as it is right now because of this guy's wide open. He's not even that good. This guy's wide open. And Rodgers is throwing 27.5% of his passes to wide open receivers. So on top of this conversation, okay, we've got Aaron Rodgers. But I want to talk about the Green Bay Packers. So this is the exact same lower third that I had last week, and I'm standing by this. The Packers don't impress me at all. Okay, we watched a game on Christmas where the Browns, in my opinion, should have easily beat the Packers in Lambeau Field in the cold. Okay? The Packers defense was thoroughly dominated in this game. And the only reason the Packers won is because Baker Mayfield is an absolute trash can. He is garbage. He is not a starting quarterback. Baker Mayfield had one of the worst performances I have seen this season from a quarterback. And that includes Ian Book. Ian Book was on the same level of Baker Mayfield on Christmas. Baker Mayfield literally threw this game away. He was terrible. He was constantly throwing the ball behind wide receivers. He was throwing the ball to defenders. He was running into sacks. He was dreadful, guys. Dreadful, atrocious. Like, I was joking, sort of, but not really, in the Discord, that this guy's like the 95th best quarterback in the league. This is becoming like Blake Bortles level meme with Baker Mayfield. Like, how bad was this guy in this game? It was so bad that if the Packers were literally playing Case Keenum versus Case Keenum, I think the Browns win. If the and I said this weeks ago, the Browns would be a playoff team right now if they just played Case Keenum. And I'm not saying Case Keenum's this far superior quarterback to Baker Mayfield. I'm talking about Baker Mayfield is that fucking bad, okay? That Case Keenum needs to be in the game. He needs to be in the game. He's terrible. I'm done with this guy. I don't want to see another commercial from this guy. I am done. The Packers, on the other hand, I don't know the stats, but I'll tell you what I've seen with my eyes from the last 2 weeks. Their defense can't stop a nosebleed right now. Offensively, Rodgers has been spectacular, no doubt. But I do fear when they get versus a good team in the playoffs, and specifically a decent defense. I'm not sure this team has what it takes to go through the gauntlet of the NFC. I'm not sure they can beat Dallas or the Rams or the Bucks, assuming decent enough health in these playoffs. Because I'm not sure, first of all, that their defense will stop anybody, and I'm just not sure that Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers are enough to win you a Super Bowl this year. I think it's similar to last year, except right now their defense sucks. Like, I understand their defense was kind of good, and their special teams has been so bad. Like, I understand that, and a lot of people are going to pick the Packers to win the Super Bowl this time in 2 weeks. They are. Don't get, like, I'm not, okay? Just so you know, I'm not falling into that trap. They are a good team because of a few things, okay? That's it. They're not a Super Bowl team to me. I don't think they're winning anything. They're too reliant on Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams. They're too reliant on Matt LaFleur's play calling and sequencing. And they're too reliant on the other team just sucking ass. I'm going to be honest with you. I think when they play talented teams, the Bucks, the Cowboys, the Rams, I don't know if they're going to win. I really don't. So, they don't impress me much. Shania Twain. I'm just going to say that much. You can disagree. Let me know in the comments. Next up. I know that everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to throw it in my face. I know all you guys, all 60 of you right now, are waiting for me to discuss it. Yes, I'll talk about the Bills beating the Patriots. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Okay? I've got to give it a round of applause. That was for Josh Allen. The Buffalo Bills won because of Josh Allen. I don't want to hear anything else, okay? I don't want to hear that it was Stephon Diggs, Sean McDermott, complainer, whiner extraordinaire. I don't want to hear that it was the defense, Micah Hyde, I don't know, Dried Ocean in the chat, the Bills Mafia, who looks like Mick Foley falling through tables every week. I don't want to hear anything other than that Josh Allen beat the Patriots. That's it. Josh Allen beat the Patriots. Josh Allen beat Bill Belichick. Josh Allen beat J.C. Jackson, Matt Judon, the Patriots defense, and Mac Jones, and the offense. I don't want to hear anything other than what happened. And what happened was that the Patriots lost to a special player. And this is where Patriots fans are going to be so mad and be talking about, New England didn't do this, or New England didn't do that, or New England didn't play well, or New England didn't have a call here, or New England didn't get a call there, or what about the J.C. Jackson dropped interception, blah, 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 blah. Bro, let's be straight up. The Patriots lost. The Bills beat them. But I don't want to say the Bills beat them. Josh Allen beat them. How many plays in this game? And you guys can go back and watch this game. There were at least 10 plays in this game, like maybe more, where Josh Allen made a insane play. Like whether it was a run, a throw from the right sideline, a throw from the left sideline, a throw under pressure, a broken tackle, sack, and runs for a first down, pitching the ball literally across his body. I mean, everything for Josh Allen was working. The guy ran to his left, okay? Pitched the ball to his right, across his body with one hand like he was Brett Favre, and got a first down on the most important play in the game. There was a 4th and 1 where he was stopped 3 yards short, broke a tackle, and got a first down. There was a play where he ran to the left, threw the ball all the way across his body to the right on a crossing route like it was straight out of Madden, and completed a 25-yard pass. Bro, all I can say is I'm not even mad. People are saying, like, Mitch, condolences. Ultras like, Mitch, how do you feel? Bro, I didn't feel one single thing after this loss, because all I know is that Josh Allen beat the Patriots, and he was just amazing. I don't have anything to say about just one player being amazing. And this is the thing about Josh Allen, okay? This is the thing about Josh Allen. I told you about Josh Allen before anybody else told you about Josh Allen. I told you about Josh Allen when I had 10,000 subscribers in my Ryerson dorm in 2017 or whatever it was. Yes, I'm circling this all the way back so I can pat myself on the back, okay? And I still can't believe that the Browns picked Baker Mayfield over Josh Allen. Are you kidding me right now? That is one of the worst decisions I have ever seen in my life. In my life. Now, secondly, Josh Allen, okay? He is the best one-man show in the NFL. He is the best. There is no quarterback who, if you had scraps, okay? If you had scraps. What is that quote from Iron Man? Tony Stark built a suit of armor out of a bunch of scraps. I don't know what the quote is. It's something like that. But you get the point, okay? If you had a bunch of average players on a team and you put any quarterback on that team, you would want Josh Allen on the team. Okay? And this is like the Josh Allen Cam, like this is like Cam from like 2015 type stuff where like he had like Ted Ginn, right? As his receiver one. Like this is like Josh Allen, okay? Aaron Rodgers, he's got more help than Josh Allen. He does. There's no way around it. Don't even talk about it. Mahomes has got more help than Josh Allen. Herbert's got more help than Josh Allen. Brady's got more help than Josh Allen. And I'm not saying Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the league. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I think the best quarterbacks in the league are both Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. And whichever one you pick is your personal opinion. But those are the two best quarterbacks in the league. What I'm saying here is, if you had an average team and you had one player to be your passing game and your running game, is Josh Allen. If you had a player who just run around and make plays, you don't even have an offensive line, doesn't even matter. Josh Allen. That's the guy. He's the one-man show. Okay? The Bills, and this is extraordinary. And this is why I say, Pats fans, you can't even be mad about, or Pats fans, you can't even be mad about this. Okay? You can't even be mad. Look at this stat. Okay? Today was Bill Belichick, and this was Sunday, obviously. Today was Bill Belichick's 392nd game with the Patriots. And the first time his defense didn't force a single punt. You gotta tip your hat. At a certain point, you can't be an arrogant asshole. You've got to just tip your hat and say, that was amazing. I've never seen that before. And this included a lot of fourth down conversions, so that stat's obviously misconstrued a little bit. That's obviously a little bit inflated due to the fourth down conversions, but they had to make it on fourth down in order to extend these drives. This is the first time Bill Belichick with New England has ever faced an offense that did not punt. That includes Mahomes Chiefs. That includes the greatest show on turf. That includes Peyton fucking Manning. That includes, I don't know, who else? Go down the list. Big Ben, Drew Brees, I don't know, LaDainian Tomlinson. That includes everyone, okay? Tony Romo's Cowboys. That includes Brett Favre. That includes, everybody, okay? Tom Brady. He didn't punt one time. Not once. Not one time. So I just give a hand to the Bills, man. And ultimately, a lot of people are going to maybe overreact to New England losing this game. At the end of the day, we split with them. That's what I thought would happen at the beginning of the year. To you Patriots fans out there that want to know where I stand right now, I'm still looking forward to this team in the playoffs. I think, let's see how they finish this regular season. And I told this to my dad during the Monday Night Football game. I said, they're going to beat Jacksonville 40-7. The game after that is very important. It might not matter in terms of their place in the playoffs. But if they beat Miami in Miami somewhat convincingly, that is going to be big. That's going to be a big momentum game for them entering the playoffs. And that game will dictate to me what they're going to do in the playoffs. If they come into the playoffs and they beat Miami convincingly, I think they've got a chance to do something in the playoffs. If they lose to Miami, I think they're going to lose in the first game. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. Okay? If New England loses to Miami in the last game of the season, they're going to lose the first game. If they beat Miami, they've got a chance in the playoffs. This team obviously has played with everybody, New England I'm talking about. And they've been more consistent than the Bills. The Bills are probably going to win the division. They've been more consistent than the Bills week to week. But the Bills have that Josh Allen factor where they can just completely blow out a team or win a game that their best player just takes over. And quite simply, the Bills' best players right now are better than the Patriots' best players right now. The Patriots 53 is probably stronger than the Bills 53, but the Bills' elite players are a bit better than the Patriots' elite players. And in terms of New England, there's a lot of things to be frustrated about. There's a lot of things that happened in the game. Miles Bryant got completely demolished and exposed by Isaiah McKenzie, who had an amazing career game, 11 catches, over 120 yards. Superb. He was amazing. And Miles Bryant got exposed. Okay, the pass rush wasn't great. The offense, the passing game wasn't where it needed to be. The run game was good. And I think a lot of people are like, my dad said a few times to me, like, what happened to the Patriots offense? What was going on? I'm like, they didn't really have the ball for most of the game. I think they had it 5 or 6 times, and they scored on 3 out of the 5 or 6 times. And really, the defense couldn't get off the field. And that's rare. And that was because of Josh Allen continuously extending these drives through 3rd down or 4th down. But yeah, I'm not disappointed in New England losing. Obviously, I don't think you can look at them right now and say they should go to the Super Bowl any longer. Like maybe I was saying like a couple weeks ago where I was like, they've got a chance. It's them or the Chiefs. Now I'm like, they're definitely an underdog entering this thing in the playoffs. But like they've proven all year that they can play with anybody. They can beat anybody. And if they play the right way, they can beat anybody. And I think like we'll see when they get in the dance. They can't play the way that they played defensively and expect to win, though. And that was my main takeaway from the Bills and the Pats game, was if New England's going to beat anybody in the playoffs, if the other team scores 30 points, they're not going to win. It's as simple as that. They don't have enough offensive explosiveness, enough offense in general to win. If the game is in the 20s, if the game's in the teens, expect New England to win that game. Expect New England to be in that game to the very, very end. But the thing we learned was if the other team on offense is just going up and down the field and scoring, the other team's going to win. You know, and it was just a really, really good game by Buffalo offensively and even somewhat defensively. They played pretty well on defense. Even though New England still ran the ball effectively, they came away with enough plays on defense. So, yeah, I'm not disappointed as a Pats fan. We split with the Bills. I think that's a fair, you know, that if before the season you said that, I think a lot of Pats fans would be happy about that result, and that's the way we've gone. But yeah, I'm not giving up on this team just yet. Pats fans out there, I think we got to ride with this team and see how it goes in the playoffs. And ultimately, if you would have said that 2 weeks ago the team would be the number 1 seed, I don't think anybody would have thought that anyways. And I feel like with Mac Jones, the way that he's been as a rookie and the future of this team, you've got to be feeling good about the Patriots regardless of how this season finishes. Would it be disappointing to go out in the first round? Would it be disappointing to miss the playoffs completely? Yes, of course it would. I'm not going to say that it wouldn't be, but I think a lot of Pats fans are great. Like in my chats every single week, it's just insane. Like it's just insane how Pats fans react to these games and the way that they get going and riled up. It's like they expect this team to be the Super Bowl champs every year. And it's like, guys, this is not the Brady era anymore. This is a team that's good, but we're not the favorites by any means. And we'll see how they look in the playoffs. And I think they've got a chance, but I don't think that like we should necessarily be expecting them to win. And that's just a weird vibe I'm getting from Patriots fans. All right. So there's my Bills and Pats review. The next topic we've got to get to, luckily, right, last week, week 15, we had a week where both New England and Tampa Bay lost, and it was the worst way you could be as a Mitch in this world. And at least this week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won, okay? So Tom Brady and the Bucs got back on track. They demolished the Carolina Panthers. And I would say, even though the Panthers are absolute dog poop, they demolished the Panthers, and it was impressive because they didn't have a lot of players in this game. They had Cyril Grayson, yes, Cyril Grayson, a former LSU Sprinter, as their number 2 wide receiver in this game, and won by over 25 points. So, that's pretty good, in my opinion. The Bucs defense came to play. They had 7 sacks on the Carolina Panthers quarterbacks, Darnold and Cam. And I just want to see the Bucs win out and get healthy for the playoffs, and we'll see how they go. I think the biggest thing, as Bucs fans out there, I know a lot of you follow me, I think the most important thing to follow these next couple of weeks is how is your defense playing and which one or what group of these secondary playmakers are playing well, right? Those are the takeaways for this team. They're going to beat the Panthers again. They're going to beat the Jets next week. regardless of who's playing and who's not playing. They're going to win. But how does the defense look? How do the secondary playmakers look? Is this Grayson kid making a play every week? Is Vaughn making a run every week? Is Rojo making a play every week? These are the type of guys that in the playoffs, you are going to have to rely on at a certain moment in time to make a play or two. All championship teams have these X-factor players who kind of come out of nowhere and make a big play or do something in the big games. Okay? Now, I want to say a couple things about Tampa Bay as well, about two GOATs here. So first, Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown had not played in 10 weeks, guys. Antonio Brown, AB, had not played in 10 weeks. He was hurt. He had a foot / I think maybe ankle injury where he was out for a multitude of weeks. Multiple weeks he missed and was rehabbing at 33 years old from an injury and expected to come back as the number one receiver of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and play well against a top 5 pass defense. Now, what did Antonio Brown do? After being suspended, called out for his personal life, after having all this injury that took him out of action for so long, after he started the season so hot, AB, one of the 5 greatest receivers in NFL history, in my personal opinion, had 10 catches for over 100 yards in this game as the number one receiver of the Bucs. The go-to guy, the go-to look. And in fact, AB this season, okay, has had the highest percentage of receptions per route run this season, which means when AB is on the field, he is the guy that is getting the ball more than anybody in the NFL in 2021. Not in 2020, 2016, 2014, 2017, 2021, with Evans and Godwin on his team. AB has the highest percentage of receptions per route run. This guy is still really good. Really good. Not just like good. Like, he's the best receiver on Tampa Bay good. Like, that is how good he is. You could make that argument that he is the best receiver on this team. Obviously, Evans and Godwin have their strengths that are better than AB, but there is something about AB and Brady's chemistry right now that is like off the charts good. And it's kind of scary for NFC teams. If AB is healthy and Evans is healthy and Gronk is healthy, the Bucs can beat anybody in these playoffs because of these 3 guys. And he was doing that against one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. Stephon Gilmore, a lot of the time, was covering him, and he was still making these plays. And I just got to say, this guy, I understand you might not like him off the field. He is still a fantastic football player. Now, the other guy I've got to talk about is the old man himself, Tom Brady, who at 44 years old is arguably the MVP of the NFL, leads the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns, regardless of if he wins MVP or not. Now, Tom Brady, this is one of the most ridiculous stats I've seen. Look at this. Look at this stat, okay? So, this is Tom Brady division titles. And look at the years where he didn't win division title. So, he won the division title in every year that you see a trophy. 01, 03, 04, 05, 06, 07, etc., right? 02. A lot of people saw Tom Brady as a game manager. In fact, when you go back to 02, Tom Brady led the NFL in passing touchdowns in 2002, which just speaks to the fact that he was already pretty darn good in 2002. Okay? That is a year that he didn't win the division. He led the NFL in passing touchdowns. 2008, he didn't play the whole year. He tore his ACL, so that doesn't even count. And then in 2020, he didn't win the division. Drew Brees and the Saints did, who are a very good team. But the Bucs won the Super Bowl in that year. And I know a lot of people, including Samuel here, is going to say that, the AFC East is weak or whatever. But the AFC East has the most wins since 2000 in the NFL. So, this is insane. I get it. There's a lot of insane Brady stats, but this is ridiculous. Even in the years where Brady didn't win the division, he did something amazing. He led the NFL in touchdowns or he won the Super Bowl. That is just ridiculous. So I just wanted to throw that out there for Brady fans out there, but that's a pretty crazy stat that I saw. All right. Let's talk about the Chargers. So the Chargers lost in the game that I was most puzzled by this week. So there was a game that I saw this week. The Chargers and the Texans, okay? This game was so off in my mind that I literally made this game a best bet, the Chargers beating the Texans. The Chargers lost to the Houston Texans. Rex Burkhead ran for 160 yards. What? I understand you didn't have Joey Bosa or Mike Williams or whoever you didn't have. How do you not beat the Texans? The Texans. Bro, you're the Chargers. You're supposed to be in the playoffs and you lost to the Texans? And this is what I want to say. Okay? Every team in the AFC playoffs wants to play the Chargers. They want the Chargers. And this is funny because a lot of people on these networks or even on other podcasts, I hear people, and I've been saying this for a while. You can't say this is a recent take, bro. Credit to Durcan. He was joking about the Texans winning. But whatever, I'll give him credit. He wants credit. He needs credit. He needs to fill his ego, so I'll give him that. But, okay. All these podcasts, these shows, whatever, bro, they're talking about the Chargers being a threat in the AFC. I've said for so long, the Chargers are not a threat this year. There's so many holes about this football team. This team is where it's at because of Justin Herbert, period. Justin Herbert. Every single team in the AFC wants to play the Chargers. Every single team. New England, Cincy, Buffalo, the Colts, the Chiefs, they all want to play the Chargers. The Chargers are, yes, they've got Justin Herbert, and that's why everyone's like, oh, they're a threat. They've got Herbert. No. They lost to the Texans. I get it. They had guys out with COVID. Rex Burkhead. Guys, Rex Burkhead is 100. He ran for 160 yards. He is running a 5'9" at this point in his career. And then we've got Davis Mills. Can we talk about Davis Mills for a second here? Davis Mills, and I've said this I've said this at least 3 weeks in a row. Davis Mills has been better. Read my lips. Read my lips. Davis Mills has been better than Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson this season. You cannot convince me otherwise. You cannot convince me otherwise. Davis Mills has been better than your self-proclaimed generational talent and the pretty boy Zach Wilson. He's better than both of those guys this year. What can you even say to defend this argument? His receivers suck. Bro, he beat the Chargers without Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks didn't even play. I'm not even a big Davis Mills guy. This guy beat the Chargers without Brandon Cooks. He's won games this year on one of the worst rosters I've ever seen in my life. This roster is garbage. Guys, give Davis Mills some credit, okay? And no, the Chargers are not contenders. If they make the playoffs as the 7 seed, they're going to get wrecked by the Titans. And you guys know how I feel about the Titans. The Titans are not as good as their can says, but they would wreck the Chargers. The Chargers are going nowhere. Stop buying into this Charger hype. They lost to the Texans. I don't want to hear it. I'm done with the Chargers. You know who I'm not done with? Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback. Say it with me. Say it with me. Joe Burrow is an elite quarterback. Say it again. Joe Burrow is elite. Say it like Joe Flacco would say it. He's elite. Joe Burrow. Okay? PFF's #1 graded quarterback. 91.4 grade. #1. That's not just last week. That's the whole season. The whole season. #1. And I understand his interceptions total is high. This guy is as relied on as any other quarterback in the NFL. Other than maybe Josh Allen. Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Lamar, Dak, Big Booby Ben, Baker Trash Ass Mayfield, Herbert, whoever you're going to put in that line. Whoever you're going to put in that line. Joe Burrow is as relied on to make plays and win games as any single one of those guys. For good or for bad. And people are going to say his interceptions are high. Here's the rebuttal. There are only 2 quarterbacks with more turnover-worthy or less turnover-worthy plays than interceptions, which doesn't make sense on the surface, right? This is a PFF stat. So turnover-worthy plays is actually a calculation for the amount of actual interceptions that you should throw, or I think this includes fumbles as well. Okay? Joe Burrow has less turnover-worthy plays than interceptions, which means that he's been very unfortunate with a lot of his interceptions. So interceptions as a stat shouldn't really be judged as heavily in that. That's why I really like that stat, because that stat shows you what interceptions should count or should, be measured correctly and which ones should not, because a lot of times interception can't be a quarterback's fault. Like sometimes the guy drops it into the hands of a defender, or the ball's batted into the air, or he's hit and the ball somehow flies its way up the field, or it's a Hail Mary or something like that. So Joe Burrow, what I love about him. So I was really high on Joe Burrow coming out of the draft. He was my #1 quarterback. My #2 is Herbert. And I liked Joe Burrow. And really after last year, I was kind of saying, I don't know if he's ever going to touch Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert's just so physically dominant. He's just so much physically more special. And you could still argue Herbert is better. But Burrow, he's really good in the pocket. He's really good in the pocket. He's really good at buying time. He's really good at extending plays for a guy that's not super athletic. He is very accurate. He makes a lot of big throws down the field. He's got a great receiving core. There's no doubt about it. But this guy's offensive line is really bad. The Bengals offensive line is really bad, and he still manages ways to kind of maneuver that pressure and make a lot of throws, right? He's got so much confidence. I feel like with Joe Burrow, you could be down 20 and still have a chance to win the game. That is the guy that I want at quarterback. That is that Tom Brady vibes, right? And I saw somebody say, like, Joe Burrow has the it factor. I agree. I think he is a top 10 quarterback. I think at the end of the year, he will be in my top 10. And I think moving forward, he might be a top 5 quarterback in the league for the next 10 years. He is really good. He is really good. He has very minimal flaws. He doesn't have a super strong arm, right? He's not a super athlete, but mentally he is there. He is getting even better week by week by week, processing defenses, going through his reads, looking off safeties, making these throws, and consistently accurate, consistently can be a savvy runner. My comp for him was Tony Romo. I see a lot of those type of things from him from that perspective. But yeah, Joe Burrow is a stud. I really, really am enjoying watching him this year. There are not many quarterbacks right now that I enjoy watching more than Joe Burrow. And I did want to bring this stat up. I also saw a cool stat from the Bengals, and this was it. So Field Yates of ESPN tweeted this. So the Bengals are the first team in NFL history to have a 4,000-yard passer, a 1,000-yard rusher, and 2 1,000-yard receivers who are all 25 or younger in the same season. I thought that was a pretty incredible stat. So when you look at teams that can be really good long term, I do believe the Chargers are going to be one of them. I think the Bengals are right there in that conversation. It's actually crazy that Joe Mixon's only 25 and that Joe Burrow is already 25, but that is a team right there. Burrow, Mixon, Chase, Higgins. And then you throw in guys like Tyler Boyd. You throw in guys like Jesse Bates. This team's going to be really good for a long time. I'm not sure they've got the long-term solution as at coach with Zach Taylor, but I do think that they've got a lot of promising elite players at the right positions. And that's a pretty cool stat. So congratulations to Bengals fans. No matter how this season wraps up, right? No matter how it wraps up. No matter if you lose the division, no matter if you lose the first game of the playoffs, you've got a very bright future. Obviously, he threw for over 500 yards versus Baltimore. Baltimore's defense and their whole team is a mess. Like, their whole team is a mess. But, yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the Ravens at this point because I feel like if they were healthy, this is just a side rant. If the Ravens were healthy, they would be a contender in the AFC this year. Like, the AFC this year isn't very strong. I feel like the Ravens would be right up there if they were healthy, but unfortunately, they have had as many injuries as anybody else in this league. All right, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. So, a lot of people are talking about this subject, and I just wanted to give my opinion on it. The Cowboys are an interesting team to talk about for Super Bowl because I think a lot of people haven't been willing to put them in this conversation, and I think it's really interesting. So if you were to ask me, like, who would you say you would put your money on to win the Super Bowl right now? I wouldn't pick Dallas. I wouldn't. If you told me, though, that Dallas won the Super Bowl, I don't think I'd be that surprised. Like, I think a lot of people are putting the Rams in kind of the place that maybe Dallas should be. Like, don't get me wrong. I think the Rams are a good team, and I think the Rams have a lot of upside. But I think when you look at the Cowboys, they might be the team that we should more so be looking at in the NFC, where it's like, if the Bucs or the Packers aren't in the Super Bowl, who's in the Super Bowl? And I think that team should be Dallas. I'm almost leaning to, I think that team should be Dallas. And the reason I say that is I'm really impressed by the pass rush. I think the pass rush is scary. Like Parsons, Gregory, Lawrence, those three guys, and then you throw in guys like Basham, who are quality type of players. That front four and what they can do rushing the passer when they get you in those situations is pretty darn good. Now, I think there's definitely places where you can attack them in the secondary, but that pass rush can be dominant. They've got a lot of athletes on defense. They've got a coaching staff that is very experienced. I don't think it is necessarily elite. I think Kellen Moore is very good. I think that Quinn and McCarthy have been there and done that, though. They're not necessarily like elite coaches at this time, but they're responsible coaches. Let's put it that way. Offensively, if they can find their rhythm, they're a very scary team. And I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Because I think their defense is going to give them a chance with the way that they can turn the ball over, they can make plays, the way they can rush the passer. And I look at their defense in a lot higher regard than I look at the Rams' defense. But their offense, they've got balance. They can threaten you through the run and the pass. And their most important thing is the offensive line health. They need the offensive line to be healthy. I think the Cowboys are entering that conversation of like, I could see them win the Super Bowl. And I don't think I was there a few weeks ago, even a couple weeks ago. I understand they demolished a team with a bunch of COVID guys, but it's more so the continuous defensive play over and over again. Don't get me wrong, I'm still probably picking Tampa over them, but I feel like if the Cowboys win to Green Bay, the way that I've been talking about Green Bay in this damn video right now, and beat the Packers, would I be surprised? No. I would not. Okay? I would not. Yeah, I just want to throw that a little bit in there. Because I think Dallas can win a shootout, and they can definitely play in these kind of sloppy type of defensive games as well. They've proven that they can play in a lot of different styles, which I think is impressive. All right. Now let's talk about the AFC. So everybody is crowning the Kansas City Chiefs as future Super Bowl champions. And as Super Bowl favorites. And, okay, that's fine. A lot of Chiefs fans, by the way, have come back to me to say that I've been wrong about the Chiefs being overrated. No, I've been absolutely right, because my take was that the Chiefs will not be as good as they were, and that the Chiefs should not be Super Bowl favorites. And I think that this conversation is a little bit misguided. And I think this is a conversation, and this is my take. You can disagree with me if you want. Okay, so the Chiefs are an example, in my personal opinion, of something that I think we want to happen that I don't think is going to happen. So it feels like everybody wants the Chiefs to be the team. Everybody is pushing the Chiefs to the top of their power rankings. Everybody is making an argument for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. So this is why I don't think it's the Chiefs' year. You look at the AFC, right? The Chiefs, we'll see how they play against the Bengals this week. That is one of the AFC playoff teams. We have not seen them play. We haven't seen them play New England either. But you look at this recent run the Chiefs have been on, okay? They have beaten and looked unstoppable throughout this stretch. They beat the Steelers. Literal trash can. The Raiders twice, who they own, who are pretty bad, as we've realized. The Broncos, that was kind of an ugly game. They beat the Broncos. They beat the Chargers in overtime in a game where I thought they got outplayed. They beat the Cowboys with a bunch of guys that were out, especially at wide receiver and offensive line for Dallas. And that was an ugly game as well. And they beat the Packers without Aaron Rodgers. So let me repeat that. This is the stretch that the Chiefs have been crowned Super Bowl champions with, okay? Aaron Rodgers-less Packers, wide receiver-less Cowboys, Chargers in overtime in a game that they got outplayed, the Broncos, the Raiders twice, and the literal trash can Steelers. Okay? You get that? Now, why I don't think it's their year? The Chiefs have played a lot of playoff teams this year in the AFC. And they have shown an ability to lose to absolutely every single one of them. So, they've lost to the Titans. They lost to the Bills. They lost to the Ravens, who I realize are not a playoff team right now. But they lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Chargers. This happened all this year. I understand it's not the most recent thing we've seen. I understand that the Chiefs might be a better team than they were then. That's fair. But they've beaten, and this is the thing, they've lost to all of these teams that are going to be in the playoffs. The Titans, the Bills, the Chargers. And then on top of that, we'll see how they play the Bengals. They may win, they may lose. I think they match up poorly with the Colts and the Patriots. So, sure. Can you say the Chiefs are the favorite to win the AFC? In a year that seems to be a little bit questionable. Yes, I don't mind that at all. But I think everybody being so convinced that this is the Chiefs' year are a little bit misguided because the media constantly pushes us towards this narrative. The media is constantly pushing us towards that the Chiefs are the team that we need to back, that we need to pick. They are that team. Nobody's going to beat them. They're unbeatable. You don't see this with any other team at the moment in the NFL. No matter what it is. Every time with the Chiefs, it feels like they're going to win. And I just like to give this argument because nobody is. They lost to the Titans. They lost to the Bills. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Chargers. They beat the Chargers as well. But the best team they've played recently, and I'm losing my voice at this point, is the Chargers. And they barely beat them. So, I don't know. I just don't think they're as convincing as I think other people think, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that they won't make the Super Bowl or they won't win the Super Bowl. It's not what I'm saying exactly. I'm just saying, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion at all in the AFC. I actually think the AFC is a complete shit show. I think the AFC, almost any team could win in the AFC and get to the Super Bowl, except for the Chargers. We discussed that. Okay? Read this real quick. Read this. I want Becca to read this. So, to all of you, please don't pick on children for believing in Santa. Because grown adults believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. I'd like to say this. Jimmy Garoppolo. This is almost poetic. I like the guy. Okay? I think he's a serviceable starting quarterback. He was not taking the Niners anywhere. Now, Kyle Shanahan is my guy. My guy. He's about to prove to all you fools why he's the best. Trey Lance, let me tell you this right now. Trey Lance is not ready. He's a year away from being ready, okay? He's a year away from being ready, in fact. And I quite frankly think the Niners are going to lose the first playoff game that they play because they have Trey Lance at quarterback. But if they don't, what are you Kyle haters gonna say? What are you going to say now? If they win with Trey Lance, who I'm not certain can throw a forward pass, what are you going to say? I will see myself out. Anyways, we've got to talk about this. So the 49ers are most likely going to be the 6th seed. They are 8-7. They are 8-7. They're most likely going to be the 6th seed if they beat the Texans, okay? So we've got the 7 seed. Who's it going to be? And who's the most dangerous 7 seed? The Eagles? The Vikings? The Falcons? The Saints? Personally, I'm going to say none. I don't think any of them are doing shit. They all stink. But if I had to say one of them, it's probably the Vikings. I don't know, I guess. I think it depends on who they play, obviously, and who the 7 seed matches up with. Tampa, Dallas, the Rams. But I would say it's the Vikings because they have the best quarterback. They've got a receiver who is literally uncoverable. They have an elite running back. And they have a couple of elite defensive players on top of having a lot of experienced players in the playoffs. You could argue the Eagles. I just feel like the Eagles in the passing game might not be good enough. Atlanta is certainly not the answer. I mean, I think Atlanta would be like, they would get demolished in the first round. If they made the playoffs, they would lose by like 30 points. But the Eagles or the Vikings could put up a fight depending on the matchup. I think the Eagles might be slightly more challenging to a team like Dallas or the Rams. I also think the Vikings could obviously challenge the Rams, as we saw this week. I think if the Eagles played the Bucs, they would lose, like, certainly. But I think the Vikings could kind of give a little bit of a close game to all three of them. Cowboys, the Rams, and the Bucs. And the Saints obviously are only good versus the Bucs. So, yeah, that's kind of where I stand on the 7 seed. I think ultimately the Eagles are going to make the 7 seed. But I think the Vikings would be the team I would want to see in there, because I think if you want, like, just in terms of pure entertainment, I think they offer the most pure entertainment. And lastly, the final segment, I just want to say real quick. So during Monday Night Football, I was sitting down with my dad, and I kind of went through this whole theory, right? I was like, the AFC, everyone assumes the Chiefs are going to win the AFC. But like I said earlier, I think if you told me the Colts went to Kansas City and won, I wouldn't be surprised. If you told me the Titans went to Kansas City and won, I wouldn't be that surprised. If you told me New England or Buffalo beat the Chiefs, I wouldn't be that surprised. The Bengals or the Chargers, yes, I'd be surprised. But the AFC is a conference that I think is very wide open, and it's going to be very hard to predict what happens. And I think there's going to be maybe multiple upsets. On the NFC side, I think the top 4 teams and the second round is going to be completely easy to predict. And this is in part due to Trey Lance now being the quarterback for the 49ers. Okay? Let's just say this is the NFC. So we have the 3 seed, let's say, or the 2 seed, let's say it's Tampa Bay. Let's say the 3 seed is Dallas and the 4 seed is the Rams, all right? Just for the sake of it. The 5 seed's the Cardinals. We've discussed the Cardinals today. The Cardinals are losing to no matter who they play. The Rams advance. The 6 seed is going to be the Niners with Trey Lance taking on Dallas. Dallas is going to win, all right? And then let's say the 7 seed's the Eagles and the Bucks as the 2 seed in Tampa. The Bucks are going to win. So it's almost a foregone conclusion in the NFC that the divisional round is going to be some sort of combination of the Packers, the Rams, the Bucks, and the Cowboys. And there's almost no way around it. I don't think there is a very small chance that any of those wild card teams win. The final 4 in the NFC is very obvious. It then becomes interesting from there. Like, I could see any of those 4 going to the Super Bowl. But it's really obvious in the first round, all right? But in the AFC, let's just throw out some scenarios, right? So let's say it is Tennessee's the 2 and the Chargers are the 7. Let's say number 3 is the Bills and number 6 is the Patriots. Let's say number 4 is the Bengals and number 5 is the Colts. So we've got Colts and Bengals. We've got Patriots and Bills. And we've got Chargers and Titans. All of those games would be fun, right? They would all be entertaining, and I feel like almost all of them, in my mind, I could see going either way. Or I could at least make an argument for the Chargers beating the Titans, or the Patriots beating the Bills, or the Colts beating the Bengals. They probably will be favored. The Bengals beating the Colts. Like, either way. So the AFC is a lot different. And then when you get to the second round, I think the Chiefs will be pretty heavily favored versus whoever they play. But like I said, what if it's the Colts and the Chiefs? What if it's the other side is Tennessee and Buffalo? Who's going to win that game? Right? So I feel like the AFC is like I have no idea. And then the NFC is like, it's 4 teams, and then we'll see from there on out. The first round, almost they should just sim the first round. It's not even going to matter. So that's kind of where I stand with the playoffs. Let me know where you guys stand in the comments. Jeremy says he was having the Chiefs and the Rams in May or the early off season. It could happen. Thanks, guys, for joining. If you guys have any quick questions, I will answer them right now for you if you'd like me to. I'm just going to stick around for a few extra minutes here if you want to ask me questions, but that is the show. Thank you guys for joining. If you've enjoyed, Gronk, spike that like button. Becca says, Mitch, I'll find you when San Francisco beats Dallas. Becca, it was nice to see you in the chat. Thank you for joining. Come around anytime. Come to the live streams. We'd love to have you in the chat. Edwin with a super chat with $10 says, thanks for all your research, Mitch. Appreciate it. Thank you, Edwin, for joining. And thank you, Edwin, for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Steeler Nation says it, Mitch, if Rodgers comes to Pittsburgh, what are the next steps we make as we get him, big if it happens? I think the Steelers, if they get Wilson, they need to get an offensive line. And then from there on out, they don't need much to turn into a playoff team. But offensive line and quarterback are their 2 main things, and it's pretty obvious to me. Okay. Jeremy says Bills can make a run. Yes, they certainly can. Tennessee is easily the best team in the AFC, says Durkant, which I don't understand that, but okay. Ultra says Chiefs are clearly the best AFC team, but they could be upset by Tennessee or Indy. Okay. Ultra says, is there any chance Green Bay beats Tampa? Personally think that Bowles has them figured out. Shut down the run, double Adams, make everyone else beat you while pressuring with 4. I think there's more of a chance, I don't know if I should say that, but more of a chance than last year. I don't know, because that already happened, but it's easy to say that. I definitely think Tampa is a bad matchup for Green Bay, and I think all those points are very fair. I think the one thing that makes me say, like, Green Bay could beat them is just Tampa Bay's injuries. Like, if Tampa Bay is too injured in that game, like, I feel like, even though that would be the NFC Championship, so you'd figure they'd be at least a decent amount of health. You know what'd be really interesting is if Tampa actually finishes as the 4 seed and they go to Green Bay in the divisional round. That would be really interesting. Am I confident that the Bucs can still make a Super Bowl? I do think they can, as long as those guys are ready for the playoffs. If they're not, then no. But as long as those guys are ready for the playoffs, I think, yes, they have a good shot. Because I feel like the team that matches up with them best is the Rams. And I feel like the Rams are probably likely to lose to the Cowboys or the Packers. So I don't think the Rams are going to make it to the spot where they would play the Bucs. I think the Bucs are a tough matchup for the Cowboys and the Packers. Becca says there's a lot of potential. Whether that gets tapped into is up for debate. She says, all I'm going to say is that I was at the San Fran-Cincy game and the Atlanta-San Fran games the last few weeks, and we looked really good. No, you guys have looked really good. There's no doubt about it, until Jimmy looked terrible versus the Titans. But the thing is, I just don't know if Trey Lance is ready this year to make that run. I think he needs a year or two before you can consider this team to be a real playoff threat with Trey Lance. With Jimmy, I think, and I've said this a few times, I feel like they could have won a game in the playoffs. You know, I felt like they maybe could have made a run, but now that Jimmy's potentially out for multiple weeks, I think that's going to be tough. How dangerous will the Chiefs be in the playoffs? They're a dangerous team. They can certainly beat anybody. I would be really interested to see if they do make the Super Bowl, if they could beat those teams in the NFC. Obviously, we didn't get to see Aaron Rodgers. They beat Dallas without some of their players. Tampa bullied them in the Super Bowl last year. That would be a rematch. And the Rams would be interesting. So, they're a threat. Derrick Henry is expected to be back for the playoffs. What are the two teams your sleeper picks for the Super Bowl? That's a good question. Let's go with Dallas. And Dallas? Yeah, Dallas or the Rams. Dallas or the Rams, I guess. I said Dallas first, so I'll go with Dallas. And then the other one, man, I could see a lot of different AFC teams. I really could. Let's be a homer and say New England. Let's be a homer and say New England. I think the Bills are somewhat of a favorite. And I think the Colts are too obvious. So I'm not going to say the Colts. Let's say New England. I think nobody's giving them a chance. I could see the Bills, but I think the Chiefs and the Bills are the favorites in the AFC. What will happen to Baker? God, I don't know. All I know is the Browns better not re-sign him. A lot of people, that's the kind of the sexy dark horse pick, is the Colts. I wouldn't say the Titans are the favorites by any means. I think if you ask a lot of people, they would not put the Titans as favorites. Or can't. That's what I'm trying to say here. Jimmy G to the Steelers. I could see Jimmy G to the Saints. If the Pats vs. Cowboys Super Bowl, I'll have to hide in a hole until the Niners can win another one. Yeah. I don't know why the Titans would play Henry in Week 18, though. That would feel stupid to me. I don't know. Do you think they should play them? Or play him, I should say. All right, guys. That is it. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you guys for joining. Gronk, spike that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe if you're new. Follow on Instagram at TheBottomLineView. Follow on Twitter at Mitch Milani. It is Mitch. Peace.